In a menacing rhythm, marching soldiers brought dark clouds over Maryland in September 1862. Peace disappeared. General Robert E. Lee and his Southern Army of Northern Virginia had crossed the Potomac River west of Harper's Ferry. It was the start of his Maryland campaign. He was pursued from the east by the Northern Army of the Potomac of General George McClellan. Mid-September, Lee looked for a strategic place to wage the battle with McClellan. He chose the area around the rural town of Sharpsburg, behind the strongly meandering Antietam Creek. The divided America was on the brink of disaster. It's about a 60-mile drive from Harper's Ferry, West Virginia to Sharpsburg, Maryland. Rolling hills, fertile fields, the town of Sharpsburg. A mile east of the town, the Antietam Creek meanders through the hilly but open countryside. Mid-September 1862, General Robert E. Lee found it a good terrain for long-range artillery and moving infantry. So, he positioned his Army of Northern Virginia here, behind this natural, defensible location. From these fields, an estimated 100,000 Unionist and Confederate soldiers clashed during the Battle of Antietam. Nobody could imagine that the next day would cost 23,000 casualties. The Battle of Antietam began at dawn when the Unionists of the North mounted a powerful assault on the left flank of Robert E. Lee's Southern Army. After having bombarded the Southern Army, the Unionists entered the North Woods and came into the Miller's cornfield. Union attacks and vicious Confederate counterattacks swept back and forth across Miller's cornfield. Surrounded by the corn, it was almost impossible to see who was your friend and who was your enemy. South of the cornfield are the Westwoods, now a park-like forest. On the morning of September 17, 1862, the Westwoods was another area of fierce fighting. For the Unionists of the North, the whitewashed Dunker Church was clearly visible. For them, this church was a reference point. Both armies attacked each other wave after wave. But the Confederates of the South hold their ground near the Dunker Church. It's the irony of history that the Dunker Church was the center of the Dunker Brethren, a German Baptist congregation who spread the gospel of peace, love, and non-violence. The Dunker Church survived the Battle of Antietam. That didn't apply to Mummer's Farm. Fearing that Unionist sharpshooters of the North would use the farm buildings as a strong point, the Confederates of the South set fire to these buildings. This is the rebuilt Mummer's Farm and the cemetery that was part of the property of Samuel and Elizabeth Mummer. Before the battle, this cozy farm lane was mentioned the Sunken Road. On September 17, 1862, the lane served as a breastwork in the center of the Confederate line. For about 3 hours on this spot, more than 6,000 Confederate troops of the South held off the attacks of nearly 10,000 Unionist troops of the North. Finally, the Unionists won the battle in the center of the line. In those 3 hours, 5,500 soldiers were killed or wounded. Ever since, the sunken road was called the Bloody Lane. The third phase of the battle took place in the south on the right flank of Lee's Confederate army. The Unionist General Ambrose Burnside attacked the lower bridge over Antietam Creek. For hours, only 450 troops of the Southern Army of Robert E. Lee held off 14,000 Union attackers. Finally, the bridge was taken by the Unionists. But when a Confederate division arrived after a 17-mile march from Harper's Ferry, the winning mood of the Unionists disappeared quickly. At the end of the day, both sides were approximately back on the positions they had at dawn. The Battle of Antietam was fought at a cost of 23,000 casualties. The American Civil War was going on. The decisive turning point would not come until 10 months later, during the 3-day Battle of Gettysburg, July 1863.